Hey guys, it's Faye from SolarFlow and I am back with a new video. Today's topic is a deep dive behind the white coat energy read on schizophrenia. This is a video in which we are going to be exploring not just the three-dimensional symptoms of schizophrenia, but what is happening behind the veil, as well as the soul and spiritual component as well. So if this sounds good, please stick around, and if not, I'll catch you at another video. So this first part is the only part of the video that is not channeled, and this is where I actually consulted with Dr. Google to brush up on the symptoms of schizophrenia. So this is for anybody else who's not entirely sure what are the ways in which it will represent externally. This is what we're going to be discussing right now. And this is what Dr. Google had reported to me. Schizophrenia it can be any number of these things manifesting in an external way. So it's psychosis, or being out of touch with reality. It also involves delusions or false beliefs, hallucinations, such as hearing voices that are not there, seeing things that are not there, unusual physical behaviors, disorganized thinking or speech, and it is also common for people suffering from schizophrenia to have paranoid thoughts or paranoid delusions. And we're going to talk about all of this in the video as well. Now, I'm also going to note at this time there are different types of schizophrenia. That's also going to be discussed in the body of the video. Okay? So that's the only part that is not channeled. Now we're going to actually be getting into the channeled information. Now, when I first sat down to look into schizophrenia, it was shown to me as, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it the right way, but these are the Matryoshka stacking dolls. And these are a series of hollow dolls with a smaller but identical version of itself stacked within. So let's say the first outermost layer is about maybe yay big. You take that apart, and there's another identical but smaller version of itself in it. You're going to take that one apart, and there's many different layers. It could be maybe like 10 different layers or so until you get to the smallest, innermost part of the Matryoshka doll. And that could be about yay big. Now, this was shown to me that all the innermost part, the tiniest Matryoshka doll, which is about yay big, represents the soul of the person suffering from schizophrenia. What are all of the outermost layers comprising all of the different bigger pieces of the doll? Those are all of the different various veils. And veils is something that we speak quite a bit on this channel about. Because what are we exploring? It's everything beyond the veil. Now, let's talk a little bit about what the veil is. All of the veils are self-protective mechanisms that are veiling a person from seeing or perceiving something that they are not yet ready to see or understand. So, again, those veils are self-protective mechanisms. What are those veils? What can they be? They can be any number of different things. It is from the micro to the macro. So there is the ego and how that veils us from understanding our true self and our true purpose and what our meaning is and why we come here, which is that we are spiritual beings having a physical and human experience. It's also the veil that separates us from the divine. It's a veil that separates us from everyone and everything and understanding how we're all connected. There's the veil that is preventing us from understanding or perceiving that this is actually just a matrix and we are just, cogs in a system, if you will. So all of those various veils serve a purpose. They are self-protective mechanisms. And what is then schizophrenia? It was shown to me not to represent a splitting of the self into all of those different Matryoshka dolls. That would be more akin to multiple personality disorder. But it was actually shown to me as a complete evisceration of all of the various veils that are in place. It is a complete dissolution of every single veil to where that person now understands all of the versions of themselves that they are not, but it is getting in touch and in tune with their innermost self, right? The innermost version of the Matryoshka doll. They are getting in touch with the innermost version of themselves in what can appear to be, if you are on the outside looking in at what that person is experiencing, scary or disruptive. Why is that? Because schizophrenia is the simultaneous spiritual awakening as well as influx of a person's gifts and abilities, but all at once. Now, let's talk a little bit about gifts and abilities and why they are so notable as they pertain to schizophrenia. So here's any number of examples of gifts and abilities that one might have. Somebody might be clairaudient, and that is the gift of clear hearing. How that can also show up is they might, for example, hear things. Somebody might be a medium. They might be able to see spirits of people that have crossed over. They might, for example, have the gift of clear cognizance. That is the gift of clear knowing, where they know things, but they don't know how they know things. But they just know what they know and they know it to be true. Somebody can also be clairsentient. That is the gift of clear feeling. That is where a person might go into any particular space and they can feel not only the emotions of the other people that are around them, but they can actually feel the energy of the room that they are in as well. Now, why are we talking about that in conjunction with schizophrenia? Let's go back to what Dr. Google had told us. What are some of the ways in which schizophrenia actually manifests in the three-dimensional? Hearing voices that are not there, seeing things that are not there, being paranoid about things that someone may not know to be true, but again, through clear cognizance, that person does know. So let's break this down. Let's say someone has been expressing some of these symptoms and they're taken to a doctor. And I don't know what the conversation's going to go like, but maybe it's something like this. Doc, you don't understand. The government, they're spying on us. They can track our activity across every different platform that we're on. They have access to our browser history. They can hear the conversations that we're having with other people. They know what we're looking for. They know what we're shopping for. There's these things up in the sky that they can see us when we're down on Earth, and then they can track us. What is that actually describing in real life in 2023 when I'm recording this video? It's something that we all know to be true, which is that actually our activity is actually tracked across all platforms on our cell phone. There are satellites in the sky that actually keep track of where we're going, right? Have you ever used a GPS system? That's because of a satellite in the sky. We know that the NSA actually does know who we talk to and what we talk about, and that they listen to our phone conversations. So in 2023, that conversation doesn't sound crazy, but take that conversation back 40 years. How is that person going to be perceived? They are going to be perceived as having paranoid thoughts or paranoid delusions. But maybe they know those things without having evidence to support it because they're claircognizant. Now, let's say they're in a room and they're saying, Doc, I can hear these voices. They're telling me things. To a doctor that is fully immersed in the three-dimensional, not understanding the spiritual component of it, what's that going to sound like? They're having an auditory hallucination. They're hearing things that aren't there. Again, not understanding That is one of the ways in which clairaudience can actually manifest. Doc, I see not only all of my ancestors, I can see yours too. And the doctor's looking around and the doctor's like, there's no one here. That is a way in which mediumship can actually come in, where you're seeing people that have crossed over. So the way in which these symptoms are coming in and are coming through, it's where perhaps the person that is exhibiting the signs of the schizophrenia has been fully immersed in the 3D prior to having this psychotic break with, reality. And in which they had no idea that they had all of these gifts and abilities. And they didn't have time for it to slowly integrate in. And it happened like that, all at once. Because it is, again, the complete dissolution of all of the various veils, but it is an instantaneous dissolution. So where that person is now completely inundated with all of their gifts and abilities in, let's say, from one moment to the next. Even though, yes, I understand that the way schizophrenia starts to manifest is not like instantaneous. But it is where it is so rapid and so sudden, and that that person has not had the chance to understand what is even happening to them. Or it's so sudden that it is like, again, if you're on the outside looking in, it seems scary, it seems disruptive, it seems like a person is having a psychotic break with reality. What is a spiritual awakening if not a break with the so-called 3D reality? That is what schizophrenia is. It is a instantaneous or simultaneous spiritual awakening and influx of a person's gifts and abilities, but where they do not have a chance to start to integrate it or even understand it before it starts to manifest on a three-dimensional realm. And when we are still living in the 3D, with doctors that are immersed in the 3D and do not understand the behind-the-veil components to it, this is a person that's going to be diagnosed as schizophrenic. Now, what was also shown to me is why it does not manifest until young adulthood. And this is, if you will, look at it like someone has just moved to a new state altogether. So when they first move, they have to first get the lay of the land. They want to start to understand, like, where's my preferred grocery store? Where's my dry cleaners? Where am I getting my nails done? Where am I getting my hair done? If you have a pet, where are you getting your pet food? What's your preferred doggy park that you can take your pet to? Then you're going to want to start to learn the best route to go from, let's say, to your house, to your grocery, or from your house to your work. And then once you have all of those things down pat, you're going to start to actually explore your neighborhood a little bit more. So now it's like, okay, I understand, like, this is the best way to get to my work, but I'm noticing at the times I'm coming or going, there's a lot of traffic, so I want to try a completely different route. I want to see how that goes. Maybe it looks like it's a little bit longer on the map, but maybe it'll have less traffic. And this is very much the same way in which why there is the, if you will, almost like the delayed onset of a person being diagnosed into young adulthood. It's where the soul has come in. They're getting the lay of their land, right? They're learning, like, who are the people in my family? Then they start to crawl. Then they start to sit up. Then they start to walk. Then they talk. Then they go to play school. Then they go to preschool. Then they go to elementary school. And it's this slow kind of expansion of their consciousness as it pertains to their lay of the land, so to say. And it's only once they have a chance to acclimate into it that then there is the onset or the expansion of their consciousness as it pertains to their neighborhood, so to say. So it is only once this new soul has learned their neighborhood, has learned the ins and outs, has kind of gotten like a sense for like, what is this life all about, that there is the complete dissolution of those veils that will then turn into schizophrenia. The soul is a little bit more acclimated into this life before they start to explore, one could say. Now, I also asked this question, which is why do, there goes one of my crystals. I asked this question of why do people that have mental health issues sometimes end up homeless? And this is what was actually shown to me. That the reason a lot of people with mental health concerns may find themselves homeless at some point is because of the very, very profound way in which they experience, if you will, the dissolution of all of those various veils and how it peels back different parts of their veiled self. So if you will, look at it like, again, we come into this world. You may come into any particular religion or any particular society, and there are certain social norms that are kind of taught to us because there's certain social expectations that we have, right? We wear clothing on our body. The clothing that we wear may reflect our society or our standing in society. It may be a reflection of our religion. There's the certain representations of religious things that we're expected to partake in as well, if you're born into a religious observation of one kind or another. And then there are these like so-called societal norms, right? You're not gonna go into a restaurant and eat with your hands unless it's something like a hot dog or a hamburger. You're not going to walk around barefoot and naked. These are societal norms that are placed upon us. And then in addition to the societal norms that are placed upon us, there's also the interfamilial dynamics that are placed upon us as well. Maybe a particular person is born into a family of all very, very high achievers. And everyone in the family is a doctor or a lawyer or anything like high achieving of that nature. The familial norms placed upon that soul is going to be that they're going to follow in the family footsteps, perhaps whether or not it is something that is of actual interest to them. So there are all of these societal, social, and familial expectations that are piled upon us. Those are, if you will, again, the outer layers of the Matryoshka doll. But who is the true soul essence of that person? It's the innermost, smallest version of the Matryoshka doll. But there's all of these other things that are piled upon them. And then once this person has this simultaneous dissolution of all of those veils and the influx of their gifts and abilities, it is also dissolving away all of the societal and familial expectations that are placed upon them, which may include certain things like where we live, what kind of car we drive, who we associate with. It may even be where that person is understanding all at once, none of this is real. This is a matrix that we live in. So it's going to actually manifest because of that, where they're going to lose interest in everything of a three-dimensional nature. So it's where they experience freedom from the matrix, the apathy or the realization that nothing is real, and the complete evisceration of the ego. Because again, what is the ego? The ego is the innermost veil that is shielding us from our true nature. Spiritual beings in a physical body having a physical three-dimensional experience. But it is preventing us from understanding our true divine nature and our true divine purpose in being here. So much like a spiritual awakening, where this person is going to lose the interest in everything of a three-dimensional nature all at once. How might that then show up in a three-dimensional way? They don't care about housing. They don't care about having a car. They don't care about having a job. They don't care about any of those things. Because all of those outer layers, those veils of the Matryoshka doll have been completely dissolved. Now, what was also shown to me very, very interestingly in the different ways that, or the different types that a person might actually be diagnosed with as it pertains to schizophrenia, and which I had written down, I think 2 of them. Okay, so paranoid we already spoke about, right? That might be somebody, we're going back like 40 years or so, where they had an understanding, despite the modern day evidence to support it, that yes, the government is actually monitoring us. Yes, they can see where we're going, they can listen to us. But 40 years prior, there was no knowledge of this. So for someone who is not claircognizant and didn't have the understanding of it, that person would seem to be paranoid. Now, what is catatonic? Catatonic was actually shown to me where that particular person is understanding that they are in a matrix. And what is the matrix if not a film that was depicting this reality, where the reality is nothing is real, where all of these people who think they're having a real experience, they're actually plugged into a system, and the system is siphoning off their life force energy to keep itself going and to keep itself alive. And everything that the person is actually experiencing is, if you will, a hologram in their mind in which they think they're having these experiences. What then, therefore, is a catatonic person experiencing schizophrenia? It's where they have acknowledged they are living in a matrix and they do not want to support the matrix through any sort of an output, whether that be louche, which is the production of our perhaps energy, our attention, our focus, our emotions onto anything that is playing out on the world scale. Or it's where they don't want to be productive, they don't want to produce anything that's going to pay money into the matrix, they don't want to be taxed by the matrix. So it is where on an energetic level, the person has come to the realization all at once, simultaneously, that this is a matrix, they do not want to participate in it, they do not consent to siphoning off of their energy any further, so therefore they will shut down and they will become catatonic. Now, what was also shown to me is that after the initial diagnosis that a person has of, let's say, this schizophrenia, there may be additional comorbidities that are tacked onto it at a later date. What are comorbidities? It's where there are additional diagnoses. So such as this person is not just schizophrenic, but they're also bipolar. This person is not just schizophrenic, but they are also suffering from depression. And the reason that this was shown to me is because after the initial dissolution of all of the veils and the explosion of all of those different various layers of the false self, and after the initial diagnosis period, there is a time in which that person can now start to actually assimilate all of their gifts and abilities into themselves, where it's not so prominently like on display front and center, in which that is now going to be the representation of what a doctor is seeing when they're talking to the patient. So this person has now started to integrate their understanding that what they're hearing is not actually auditory hallucinations, but it's actually gifts and abilities, where they're integrating that in. So it might not necessarily be something that they're going to talk about that much with the doctor. But what may remain is depression. And the depression, the way it was shown to me, was this recognition on this person's part that they are living incongruent with their environment, where they are living out of sync because their personal veils have all been dissolved, but they are still living in a three-dimensional world where they are still interacting with people of a three-dimensional nature, and there is nothing that they can say to that particular doctor that is going to illuminate to the doctor that what they are experiencing is actually real and true, but they know it to be real and true. But there is nothing they can say that will break through, if you will, or permeate through the different layers, veils, that doctor is experiencing. They're incongruent. And that is why there is depression that lingers, because this person has been blown wide open in their understanding of all of their personal veils, but they are still interacting with people that are diagnosing them and are responsible for their medication, and how that can cause an incongruency that leads to depression. Now, speaking about medication, this is interesting. This is what was shown to me about the medication. So the medication serves two purposes. One in which it numbs the person's gifts and abilities, and two, in which it is actually making the other people around them feel more comfortable. Because if you will, imagine the Tasmanian devil in a room with you, spinning around at high speed, not being careful or discerning, and they're bumping into your sofa and they're completely eviscerating. There's like just bits of fabric flying everywhere. They've destroyed your TV. They destroyed your coffee table. They've destroyed the interior of your home. So the purpose of the medication is to modify or bring down the behavior. It's to make the people around that person, frankly, more comfortable. However, it does blunt the gifts and abilities. Now, I'm not going to say that a regular doctor that is sitting across from a person and they're diagnosing them and they're going to be responsible for their medical treatment and their medical care and they're going to be giving them medication. I'm not going to say that they understand what the true purpose of it is, because again, they are particularly veiled and they are still living very much in the three-dimensional and in the matrix. So their understanding of what is being shown to them or the physical manifestation is not understood as it being something other than a particular set of behaviors that fall under this one particular diagnostic name. But what if the people that are on the board of Big Pharma, and what if those are people that, for example, they understand that the physical manifestations are more than just the way they're perceived to be with the three-dimensional eye? What if it's a person that's actually quite familiar with the astral plane and the spiritual component and all of these different things, but they are not team high vibe, they are team dark side. So wouldn't it behoove them, for example, to take these particular behaviors and give it a label that is deemed to be a mental health issue? And that for this particular set of symptoms, we're going to give it this name. These are the different medications that you're going to be giving to that person. But what does that medication do? It is blunting or numbing that person's gifts and abilities. And it is creating a synthetic or artificial veil that has been dissolved through their simultaneous dissolution of all of their veils. It's creating, through the medication, a synthetic and artificial veil. Where? In their brain. Where is the brain in conjunction to all of our chakras? It's at the highest chakra. It's the crown chakra. What does the crown chakra represent? It's our ability to connect to the divine. So what are they in essence actually doing with the medication? They're actually creating a synthetic veil because the veil has been dissolved. They are creating a synthetic veil to prevent that person from connecting to the divine. So if somebody was team dark side and they want to stop our influx of gifts and abilities, would it not then behoove them to create a pill that somebody would take that would recreate the experience of the veil and slow down their ascension? And take it a step further. We're not only slowing down their ascension, we are creating a label around the various gifts and abilities that manifest for somebody when they have schizophrenia. We're creating these labels of what they are experiencing. Okay, you think that there's a matrix and the matrix is real. You're psychotic. You have had a break with reality. Okay. You are hearing voices. No, that is not actual clear audience. That is an auditory hallucination. You're a medium. You're seeing ancestors and dead people. No, you're not actually a medium. You're having visual hallucinations. No, you don't really know what you know to be true through your claircognizance. That's just paranoid delusions. No, you can't really feel the energy of this room and all of the people that were having their various experiences in this room. That's not real. That is also, you're out of touch with reality. No, your body is not telling you anything. No, this whole notion of empathy, it's not real. You're not an empath. No, your body isn't communicating with you. And how do we know it's not communicating with you? Because here, we're going to give you a pill, and that's going to further disconnect you from what your body is telling you. Okay. Now, the way in which the medication was also shown to me, very interesting, the representation here. So imagine, if you will, that a person suffering from schizophrenia has two different length legs. One is regular length leg, and one is like half the size. So let's say their waist is up here, their short leg is here, and their full length leg is here. Now imagine, if you will, before they get a custom-made orthotic shoe that will bring them, both of their legs, up to the same length, they're walking, but the way in which they're walking through the world is completely like tilted. It's skewed because, again, one leg is shorter. They're always going to be kind of like hobbling and walking sideways. So this represents the way in which they will experience the world. Tilted or skewed. Now, what does the medication do then? The medication acts as a custom orthotic shoe, which will give the illusion of that person having balance, where now they don't have that half-length leg. They have a shoe that's, it has many, many different, like, funny. It has a false bottom to it. Interesting. We're talking about the false self and the dissolution of the false self. And what does the medication do? It creates a false level of that person's shorter foot. It's like the ultimate platform shoe, if you will, but it's a custom shoe only for one foot. Now, what does it then do? So this person can choose to medicate themselves and blunt their gifts and abilities, thus continuing to live inauthentically, or, and perhaps also without familial support. I can't deal with them, they're not taking their medication, I don't know what to do, I'm at my wit's end. Or what they can choose to do is wear that shoe, which will then balance them out, so to say, but all that's doing is masking the differences that that person feels. But guess what? When they take off that shoe or at night, they still know who they are. They just know that that shoe is making them more socially acceptable. So for a person who does integrate all of their gifts and abilities at once, but ends up medicating themselves, there's going to always be this layer of depression, if you will, where they understand this is just making them socially acceptable. It's just masking who they truly are. But that to be socially acceptable, they have to sacrifice living authentically. So these people that are diagnosed with schizophrenia do not have an easy go at life here. Now, here is where I'm going to actually talk about their meaning and purpose and why they come into the world and agree to be somebody that's going to be diagnosed with schizophrenia. And that's going to be on a small familial level and also a societal level. And I'm going to say like this, that first of all, anybody that is a schizophrenic person that's knowing that's going to be one of the big experiences that they're going to have in their lifetime, which of course any big lesson or experience somebody has to have is a soul contract where they are agreeing to have that play out in any particular incarnation. That person is in essence a very highly evolved soul. because they know that they are not going to have an easy go. And they also know that part of their experience is to be the arbiters of familial change. And what do I mean by that? So the way in which, on a familial basis, the way in which schizophrenic people were shown to me is that they are a thread. Not the needle, just the thread. What does thread do? Thread will repair things that are falling apart. So if you will, a thread will keep a button on a shirt. If a hem is coming undone, the thread will keep the hem together. It is a binding of sorts to keep things together. So they were shown to me to be an element to repair certain elements in a soul group. Let's talk about this. What is a soul group? A soul group is a number of souls that have perhaps accumulated over some lifetimes karmic shit. Or they have the chance to come back in with these same group of people to repair karmic reverberations that have been played out in previous incarnations. And I'm going to actually compare this to a ball, a dancing ball, but like a grand ball going back to, like, I don't know, the 1800s. And let's say a family has come to this ball together. So they're all going to dance together, but they're going to dance in any different number of formations. This is exactly the way soul groups work. So let's say for dance number 1, the little sister is going to dance with her brother. Then for dance number 2, she's going to dance with her older brother. Then maybe for dance number 3, she's going to dance with her father. Now, while in dance number 1, she's dancing with her other little brother, maybe her older brother is dancing with the mother. Maybe the older sister is dancing with the father. So this is all going on simultaneously, which is a representation of the way in which soul groups also come together to work out their particular karmic shit. They're all dancing at the same ball, but they're just dancing with different members of the same group, the same family. This is the way soul groups work. Maybe in a previous incarnation, just like in the first dance, the little sister was dancing with the little brother, that was who they were in a previous incarnation. Maybe in a different previous incarnation, just like that little sister dances with the father, that was who they were. She was a daughter to this particular father. It works literally exactly the same way. Again, it's different people dancing at one same ball in one same soul group. That ball represents the soul group. But the way in which they choose to dance with people at the ball is representing who they were in previous incarnations. Let's take it a step further. Let's say on that first dance, the little sister who's dancing with her brother, she gets tripped by her brother. And she's like, you know what, second dance, I want to dance with you again. This time not where I'm getting tripped, but where I can dance beautifully. So they are choosing to, instead of going on to dance with another family member, they're choosing to repeat the same dance, but to do it this time more aesthetically pleasing, where there's no mistake of somebody tripping the other one. See where I'm going with this? So as the various souls come together in any particular soul group, they are working through all of their various different karmas. Look at the karma, if you will, one sibling tripping another one. They want to do it again. They want a repeat of that dance so that they can repair the karma. They can do it without the trip this time. So the one that has been diagnosed with schizophrenia is there to connect them if first and foremost they are a fractured unit. So maybe that's going to be one of the siblings that's like, it's not enough. I don't just want to dance with everyone in my family. I want to dance all together. Let's all get together and we're all going to dance as one. They are there to repair a fractured familial unit. They might also be there to teach patience, kindness, compassion to the other family members. So maybe they're saying to the little sister and the little brother that tripped, it's okay. I get it. I really, really know that you want that dance to be perfect. It's okay. I get it. I'm here for you. I see you. So look to what the other family members have endured because of it and how they have changed because of it, both independently and collectively. Because that was their purpose in coming into the soul family, so that they can repair it in some way. Now, on a societal level, this is their purpose. They are our teachers on a grand scale. Because through the experience of people being diagnosed with something such as schizophrenia and the homelessness that may actually stem from it, and the housing crisis that it may actually be created because of it, we then have the opportunity to explore more humane ways of caring for the souls that are different, the souls that sometimes live on the fringes of society, the people that may be homeless, and the people that may be in need. So are we going to continue to turn our head and look the other way and be like, this is unpleasant, I don't want to see it? Or are we given an opportunity to say, just because they're different doesn't mean that they're not in need? And it is giving us the opportunity to get in touch with more humane ways to help people. And it was also shown to me that the issues will become more rampant as we all ascend and wake up, so that those who do not want to see will have to see. So let's say, for example, there's a homeless encampment on a main street, and someone does not want to see that homeless encampment. So they're going to go on a different street so that they will not have to see it. They're not then being confronted with what they don't want to see but need to see, because it's part of their soul's evolution. So what's going to happen is there's going to be more of this rampant, maybe either mental health crises, or the example that I'm giving right now is the homelessness, where that's going to start to be more prevalent, where it's going to start to expand and spread out. So that way, when they're taking one main thoroughfare and they don't want to see it, so they're not going to go on that main thoroughfare, they're going to go on a different one, there's going to be another homeless encampment there. Or there's going to be something that's going to force them to see what they do not yet want to see. So this is, again, where as we ascend and as we wake up, it's going to be more rampant. So those who do not want to see will have to see, will have to be confronted with the out-of-touch parts of their souls, and to be united once again with their dormant humanity. So it's where I need to go to, for example, the grocery store, but right outside the grocery store that I'm going to, there's a homeless encampment. So I'm going to maybe, oh, is there another entrance I can go in? I don't want to see this. I don't want to deal with this. They're out of touch with their humanity. They're out of touch with seeing what the world is trying to show them for their own soul's evolution and growth. Is this a person who's going to just literally step over a homeless person to get to where they're going? Or are they actually going to slow down and stop and see if that person needs something? So it is giving us all societally the opportunity to get in touch with the humane parts of ourselves that we have become disconnected to or from. So they really are, in essence, our teachers on a grand scale, not just familial, but for all of society to get to become more in touch with the humane parts of ourselves that we have all become disconnected from. So I hope that you guys have found this video to be interesting or thought-provoking. And I probably should have said this at the beginning, if you made it this far. You're hearing it though, and I'll put it down actually in below as well. This video is not in any way meant to bypass doctors. This should not be taken as medical advice in any way, shape, or form. This is just my channeled, behind the veil information of what it means for somebody to be suffering from schizophrenia. So, as always, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, found it to be interesting or informative. Take what resonates and leave the rest behind. And as always, stay in the high vibration.